Hi friends, my name is Akil Ahmed, and in this particular video tutorial I will show you if validation fails, then stop processing and move the file to error folder in SSIS. So this is my profile. I have 13 plus years of experience on Microsoft technologies. So the agenda of today's video tutorial is if validation fails, then stop processing and move the file to error folder in SSIS. So recently I got a question from one of my subscriber, Loknath Srivelle, and he said that I have a question, could you please give resolution to that? When we are loading 2 million record file, how do we write if validation is failed, then how to stop the processing and move the file to the error folder? So I thought to make a video on this one, so let's jump to the demo. So for this particular example, I don't have a 2 million records of file, but I have a file which contains 1000 records and it contains person's email information. So this is the file email_info.csv, and this file is situated in the D files location. And I also have an error folder which is situated in the D files location as well. So right now error folder is empty. Now if the validation will fail for the email_info file, then this particular file should be moved to the error folder. So let me open this particular file and show you what kind of data it contains. So it contains like person's ID, first name, last name, email and gender. So it depends process to process, like what kind of validation you are doing. So one kind of validation we can write is that if one of the email is blank, then we can mark the validation as failed, ideally because this is the email information. So every record should contain some email addresses, okay, and if a record doesn't contain an email address, then we can mark the validation as failed. Okay, what we can do, we can load this particular file into an staging table into the SQL Server database, and after that we can execute a query and we can get the total number of records where email is blank. Okay, and if the number of records are greater than 0, it means that there are some records where the email is blank. Then we can decide that okay, this process will be failed, and then we can move this particular file to the error folder. And if all records contain some email addresses, then we can let the process continue. So that's what we can do for this particular example. Okay, so let me just close this particular file. So let me open the SQL Server Management Studio. So I have SQL Server 2019 instance, and then I got a work database. So we can create an email table here, and then we can write the further code. So let me just open the SSIS package. So this is my blank SSIS package, and right now I have not created any code in it. First of all, we will load the data into a staging table in the SQL Server database. So to do that, we will be using the data flow task. So we can just configure the data flow task, and we will be using the flat file source to read the data from the CSV file. I can make a new connection here, and I can call it like source file, and I can browse the file. So the file type will be CSV because it's a CSV file. I can select the file, click open, and if you click on preview, so data seems good here. It's a CSV file and which can be easily loaded. So I can click OK. Now I can just drag and drop the OLEDB destination into the data flow task, and then we can connect the flat file source with the OLEDB destination, and we can configure the OLEDB destination. We can click new to create a new connection. So we already have a connection to the work database, so I can select this particular connection, and now I can click OK. Now from the data access mode, I can select table or view fast load because it will do a bulk insert, and I can create a new table because right now I don't have a table created in the database. So I can call my table as email, click OK. I can click on mappings to make sure that all input columns have been mapped with the destination columns. So this seems good here. I can click OK. So this particular code can load the CSV file into the SQL Server table. Now what we want is that once the data has been loaded, then we want to get the validation counts. Okay, so we can just connect the data flow task with the execute SQL task, and I can call it like check validation counts. Okay, and I can just declare an SSIS variable here, and I will call this variable as error counts. Okay, and the data type will be in32, so that's fine. Now I can just configure the execute SQL task, and I can select the connection here, and in this particular SQL statement I can write a select query like select count star from email table where email equal to blank. Okay, so this query will return me the number of records, those are blank. Okay, and then I can click OK, and I can assign this particular value using a single row, and in the result set name I will put 0 here, and because that's the only SSIS variable error count, so the value of the errored records will be assigned to the error counts SSIS variable. I can click OK. At this particular stage I will get the number of errored records in my table. The records, those have the empty email address. Okay, now there can be two type of processing. Okay, so the first processing can be, for example, we can let the process continue. So maybe I can just call this executes SQL task like let the process continue. So we can, for example, write other code, like we can create the indexes on the table, or we can just do some other kind of processing. Okay, so for now let me just configure this one. In the connection I can select the connection name, and in the SQL statement we can let the process continue. So in real life scenario you can write any code here. Okay, but for now I will just leave it as blank. Now what we want to do, so for the successful validation we want to let this particular task run. So we can just configure this particular precedence constant. So we can click on edit, and in the evaluation operation we will select expression and constraints, and then we can click on these three dots, and then we can just drag and drop the error counts here. So if error count will equal to 0, it means that data is good. So we can click OK, and we can click on the logical OR, click OK. So now what this particular precedence constants will do, then it can let the process continue here, and we can add more task here. Okay, but suppose if the validation fails, then what we want to do, we want to move the file to the error folder. So to move the file we will be using the file system task. So let me just drag and drop the file system task into the control flow window, and we can just connect the check validation counts execute SQL task with the file system task, and then we can just configure this precedence constants here. So we will select expression and constants, and in the expression we can just drag and drop the error counts. So if the error count is greater than 0, it means that there are some bad data. So I can click OK. We need to click on logical OR operation here. Now click OK. So now what we want to do, that in the file system task we can just right click and click on edit, and the operation that you want to do is the move file operation, and in the source connection is source path variable. So this is false because we already have a connection to the source CSV file. So we will select that particular connection here, source file, and for the destination one is destination path variable. So what we will do, we will declare an SSIS variable for the destination file path, and then we can just provide the value of the destination file path here. So for now I can click OK, and now let me just declare an SSIS variable here, and I will call that variable as dest file path, and the data type will be a string. And what value you want to assign, that we can just copy the folder path from here. Okay, and let me just open a notepad here and put this folder path here, and then I can just give the name of this particular file, because I want to move this file into this error folder. Okay, so this will be the final dest path. So I can just copy this value from here, and I can just provide this value in the value. Our destination file will be this one, email info in the error folder. So I can just close this one, and in the file system task, so in the destination connection is destination path variable, so I can just select it to true, and in the destination variable I can select that particular variable that I declared, dest file path. Okay, override destination, so I can select true. So I want to override the file if the file already exists in the destination location. So now this has been configured, and now I can click OK. So right now if I will execute the SSIS package, then this particular data flow task will load the CSV file into any staging table, and then we will check the validation counts. And because right now none of the records have an empty email address, so the control will go to this particular execute SQL task, and this process will let continue. Okay, so let me just execute the SSIS package. So you can see that the data got loaded into this particular table, and in the validation counts it returns 0 records. That's why it moved to this particular location. Okay, now let me just go ahead and just modify the file, source file, and let me blank out maybe 1 or 2 of the records, so that we can see that if the file will be moved to the error folder or not. So I can just open this file maybe in the text pad, and for example for this third record, let me just blank out this email address from here. Okay, so I just blank out the email address from here, and now let me just close this particular file, and let me just rerun the SSIS package. So this time the file should be moved to the error folder. So you can see that this particular task loaded the file into the staging table, and then in the validation counts it found that one of the record has blank email address. So that's why the validation got failed and the file got moved to the error folder. So let me check if the file was actually moved to the error folder or not. So I can go here. So I can see that the file has been moved from here, and let me check the error folder. So you can see that the file has been actually moved to the error folder. So I think this is what we wanted from the SSIS package. So I think that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching the video, and if you like the video then please click the like button, do subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon and click on all so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much.